Hi friends, it's Lauren here at Craft Some Joy, and I'm so excited because my buddies Kylie Kingham from Paper Sweet Pea and Noreen Smith from Organized and Creative Mom and I have collaborated once again to bring you some fresh new content right here on YouTube. We are Scrap With Me ×3 and ready to bring you some fun new techniques with the brand new National Scrapbook Day 2022 collection. We've each put our own spin on how to use this beautiful collection with maybe a little Easter twist. So before we jump in and get started, I also just want to share that each of us has also created a layout guide for our creations here on YouTube. All you have to do is hop on over to our website, and each one of us will have a step-by-step guide on how to create these projects that you'll be watching right here on YouTube. So I will make sure to leave a link to all of the websites where you can find our handouts and our shopping links all in the description of this video. And as always, we love to hear from you. So if you haven't yet, subscribe, like, comment, and follow. We would just love to grow this amazing community. Okay, well, let's jump in and get started creating what I have in store for you. So I'd like to get started by first giving you an overview of what we'll be creating today. I am going to give you the formulas to create two two-page spreads. And on one of the spreads, we are going to do this really fun interactive peekaboo element on the side. That way, that one page will have some interaction that you can see the border peeking through from the bottom page. We will also learn how to build this fun border with all these different circles, layers of punches, and different elements. Okay, so let's start off first by going over the tools that we're going to need. As always, feel free to substitute any punches that you might have for the ones that I'll be using in these layouts. So I will be using the new Wildflowers border punch, the Field Fence border punch, and also the grass. I'm digging into my stash for that. You could also use the grass border maker cartridge if you happen to have that. If you don't have either of those, grass is just pretty easy to freeform hand cut. So you could always take that technique as well. In addition to those border punches, we are also going to use the circle border maker cartridge along with the border maker system. We're going to need our custom cutting system, mat, blades, red and blue, and the medium pattern and the small circle pattern. We're also going to use two of the piece by piece mini punch set. Out of the two punches, the one that looks kind of like a petal and the one that has the heart in it. And also, I love my multi-purpose tool. We'll end up grabbing that over and over, as well as my 12-inch trimmer. And don't forget a sharp pair of scissors. And you're also going to want to grab some Post-it notes. In addition to all the tools, let's go over the papers that I'll be using to create these layouts. In honor of National Scrapbook Day, we are going to use the NSD 2022 Project Recipe Kit. We'll be using several of the papers, the sticker strip, and also the Garden Friends Designer Paper Pack. This was a paper pack that was included in the premium customer bundle, or you could always ask your advisor to see if they might have a pack for you. We are also going to need our adhesives, which include foam squares, tape chips, repositionable adhesive, and I always like to have an extra refill on hand. We are also going to be using the gray dot tip pen, and if you don't have that one, just grab something that would be similar. And in addition to all these goodies, if you would just grab a little piece of white cardstock, that'll help when we're building our border. I also just want to remind you that there will be a layout guide available on my website at craftsomejoy.com, and it will take you step by step through all of the different cutting guides and how to build these pages. and include a few extra tips and tricks for creating the final touches for your pages. Okay, so let's get started first with all of our straight cuts. So we're going to grab the 12-inch trimmer and the papers from the Garden Friends paper pack, as well as the project recipe pack. We are going to start by cutting the blue stripe paper. And as I have noted in my cutting guide, we're going to have the stripes going vertically. So just pop those into your trimmer, and we're going to make 3 cuts. 2 cuts at 3 inches, and 1 cut at 2.5 inches. The last paper we're going to set aside because we're going to come back and do some more cutting with that strip. The next paper is our green plaid paper, and we need to cut 2 strips out of this paper, both 1/2 inch by 12 inches long. And once again, I am going to set that paper to the right-hand side because we'll be coming back to use that paper again. Okay, these next 3 sheets, the yellow honeycomb, the picnic blanket, and the light blue dots, I'm also going to set aside because we're going to do some different cutting with these 3 sheets of paper. So next up is our green paper. I like to call this like my little green chicken feet paper. And this paper, we are first going to cut 4 times at 1 inch. So we'll make 4 1x12 strips. Then next we are going to cut 1/2 inch strips, and we're going to cut 4 more 1/2 inch strips that are going to be 1/2 by 12 inches long. Then once again, we're going to cut 2 more 1/2 inch strips, except these 2 we are going to turn horizontally and cut at the 8 1/2 inch mark. Now we're going to move on to the project recipe papers, and we'll start with the cloud paper. And we're going to cut both sheets exactly the same with this paper. And once again, make sure you have the clouds in the correct orientation. So we're going to look at them going across the page horizontally. Okay, so the first cut is going to be at 8.5 inches, and then we'll turn our paper horizontally, and we're going to cut again at 8.5 inches. So we will have an 8.5 by 8.5 inch square and a leftover piece that is 3.5 by 8.5 inches. And we're just going to do that one more time with the other sheet of cloud paper. Cut it at 8.5, turn the paper, and cut again at 8.5. And we're going to set those aside into our layout base page pile. Okay, so now it's time to move on to the plaid paper. And these both, again, are going to be cut exactly the same and very simply just cut at the 9-inch mark for both sheets of paper. So we'll have a 9x12 and a 3x12. So now we're going to come back and grab some of those punches and extra papers that we've put aside. So the first one is the dark green plaid, and with this paper I'm going to punch the field fence punch. And I don't need a full strip of this paper, so I'm just going to punch that twice and then snip off the end. I'm going to create a new pile that will be my embellishment pile just above my cutting mats. Okay, so the next paper we're going to grab is our yellow honeycomb paper, and this paper we're going to use with the custom cutting system. So I'm going to grab the medium circle, and we're going to be working on the inside tracks of this circle. Now the same technique will be used over and over for all 5 circles we're going to be doing, and that is to use the blue blade first and then the red blade. That way what we do is create 2 circles. We create a circle and then also a ring for that circle. And with the yellow paper, we're actually going to do that twice because we'll use the yellow side for one and the ladybug side for the other. So I'm going to set that into my embellishment pile. Now, while we still have this paper, I'm also going to use the piece by piece mini punch, the one with the heart on it, and we're going to punch 5 hearts out of the side of the yellow paper. And these are going to be for the petals for our flower. Now, I'm also going to need a centerpiece for the flower, and so I decided to pick one of the punches that didn't have any of the markings on it except the white basket weave. Okay, we're going to repeat the same process for the blue picnic blanket. Again, the medium pattern inside track, blue blade first, and then the red blade. And once again, we're going to cut this 2 times, using the blue picnic side once and also the B side for another embellishment. Once we have our circles cut, we are going to grab our border maker system and, using the circle chain border maker cartridge, punch 2 rows of circles with this cartridge. Once we have those punched out, we're going to set them aside and put those with our base page papers. Okay, so now we're going to grab that last piece of blue stripe paper and cut out our last set of circles. So once again, we're going to use the medium circle pattern inside track with the blue blade and then the red blade. We are also going to cut 1 additional circle, and that's going to be with the small circle pattern and the red blade. Once we have our circles cut, once again, I'm going to grab our piece by piece punch with the little hearts on it and punch out 5 more petals for another flower. And this time I'm going to use the little cluster of white daisies for my center circle. So I'm just going to get that in my punch that out, and that's going to be the center of my flower. Okay, so now it's time to come back for some more border punches. We're first going to start off with the green chicken feet paper, and we're going to use the grass punch and cut about 3 punches with this punch. I'm going to grab the yellow honeycomb paper once again and flip it over to the ladybug side and just punch 1 row of grass from this side of the paper. And I'm just going to set that aside. Now I'm also going to punch 1 set of wildflower out of the light blue dot. So if you have a scrap of this paper, that would work great. Otherwise, we're just going to need a little snippet off the end of this paper. So now it's time to make some fun little bunny shapes. We're going to take our piece by piece punches again, and we'll take our scrap of white cardstock. We're going to punch 2 of the petals out of the white cardstock, and then I'm going to grab the other punch that has the heart, and I'm going to punch the circle and the little crescent shape out of the white cardstock. Lastly, I'm going to take my small custom cutting circle again. We're going to use the inside track with the blue blade, and we're going to cut just a tiny little white circle for the bunny's body. Okay, so now we have all our little pieces together. Let me zoom in and show you just how to kind of use some scissors to fussy cut these into cute little rabbit forms. So we're going to first start by making the ears, and these are using the 2 punched out petal pieces. I'm just going to take my scissors and round out the center, turning that petal into kind of a deep cut heart, or as I like to see it, 2 cute little bunny ears. Now it's easier for me to cut one angle because I'm right-handed, and then flip it over and cut the other side out. So we're going to do that to both of these little white pieces. Now, I hope you also have just a little tad of pink paper, and we're just going to fussy cut some inside pieces for 1 set of the ears. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but we're just going to cut kind of like a teardrop shape that's going to fit inside 1 set of the ears that we made. So now it's time to give a little dimension to all these little white pieces. So I'm just going to grab my gray dot tip pen and ink around all the edges of the pieces. including the ears, the tail, the body, and the little foot. Once I've got all of that done, I'm just going to grab my precision point glue pen and put a few dots so I can adhere all these little pieces together. Okay, so now that we've got some of the fussy cutting done and some of our circles and shapes and patterns, let's start our layouts by building our base pages. So I've got my 2 sheets of white cardstock set up on my mats. And for these first 2 pages, we are going to use the 9x12 plaid strips, both of those for our base. Then the floral 1-inch strips, we're going to use 4 of those. And then the green 1/2-inch strips, and we're going to use 4 of those. So we're just going to add all of those strips down and create a horizontal layout for this base page. Once I have all of the horizontal papers in place and glued down, I'm going to come back with my 2 3-inch pieces of blue stripe paper. Now these are going to be the borders for both edges, and they both need to be placed exactly 1/2 inch from the edges of the paper. So please be sure to line everything up so that it is right on the 1/2 inch mark. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is add the rings, the outside rings that we cut for all of our different circles. And those rings are going to line up barely touching all along the right-hand side border. Now you will notice as you put these together, they are going to fit pretty much perfectly on that strip. So there's no overlapping. These circles are going to go touching the bottom of the top circle with the top of the next circle, the bottom of that circle with the top of the next circle. And again, it's easy to use your repositionable adhesive so that everything gets lined up just perfectly. So we want those lined up both top to bottom on our strip and also right in the center of that 3-inch strip. Okay, so now we're set up with our base page for our first 2 pages. Now we're going to work on the next 2 base pages. I've got another sheet of white cardstock, and on the left-hand side of my layout, I have the layout that we just finished flipped over so that I can see the white cardstock. So now we're going to start building these 2 base pages. These base pages are going to start with our dark green plaid 1/2 inch strips vertically on each edge. Then we're going to add our blue plaid paper next to those. And then we're going to add in the cloud paper that goes on the top, and then our tan honeycomb paper that fills in the remaining space. I love using 8.5 by 8.5 squares so that when you put your 4x6 photos or your 4x4 photos in that space, it fits perfectly. So the next little detail is using those 2 green strips that we've cut to 8.5 inches. And I'm just going to use those as a guide to trim my 2 strips of the Circle Chain Border Maker cartridge down to that same 8.5 inch strip. Once I have all my pieces in place, I'm just going to adhere everything down so that it is stuck into place. So now comes probably the trickiest part out of the whole layout process, and we are going to cut our peekaboo holes out of our page. Now, just as a reminder, we're going to be cutting through many, many layers of paper. We have our patterned paper, our cardstock, and then another layer of patterned paper on the bottom. So just take some time with this process. And the best way I found in order to do this is to use your cutting mat and use your rings that we have put into place as your guide. So I'm going to take that medium circle cutting pattern. We're going to work on the inside track, and we're going to use our blue blade. Now, once again, this is going to work much better if you have a fresh blue blade, but if not, you may just need to take several passes to cut out your circles. So I'm just going to take that medium pattern and lay it right on top of the circle ring, and I'm going to place that in a way that there's equal distance around the ring as on the inside of the pattern. Now, there's really not an easy way to do this other than just eyeballing it, but you can put your blade in the track to see if you've got it pretty much in the right place. And when you start using your blade, you're going to start feeling that it's cutting through all these different layers. Now, you may find that you get a few layers cut and you have to come back and cut some more layers, but that's okay. And you can use your multi-purpose tool to help you lift out some of those layers, and just do your best at going back and forth, cutting through all the layers until you get that circle cut out. Okay, so I'm going to continue to do this for all the other circles. Again, it takes a little bit of patience and a little bit of practice, but you can just take your time in this process to get all the center circles cut out. Now, I do want you to save the pieces that we are cutting, and we're going to use just a couple of those pieces. So just set them aside and have them ready for when we come back to build our border. Now, if you have any trouble with some of the pieces getting stuck, just take your scissors and trim out some of those torn edges. And after it's all finished, it's all going to look beautifully. So now we have all 5 of our peekaboo circles cut through our page. And this is just such a fun technique. It's a little tricky, but it sure is fun when it's all finished. Okay, so the next step is to actually build the border that's going to peek through these fun circles. So we're going to start first with building the very first flower. And I love to build these flowers on tape chips. So I'll just peel off one tape chip so that the sticky part is up. And I'm going to take 5 of those little stripe blue petals and create a flower. Now, they're not overlapped to where they're touching in the center. I kind of leave almost, you might call it a star pattern in the center. And then we're going to come back and put that center flower, the center circle, to cover up that flower. So before we stick down our flower, what I want you to do is grab one of the floral circles that we just cut out of our peekaboo strip. And once you grab that, we need the small custom cutting circle pattern again. And I'd like you to just take the pattern and put it on top of the circle. It will hold that circle in place. Then we're going to take our red blade and use it on the inside track to cut out that floral circle. Once I have the floral circle cut out, I'm going to layer that, and then I'm ready to layer my blue flower on top. And then I will add in the center of the flower, which is that little punched piece of the daisies. So our second circle is going to use the blue picnic paper, and we are going to do some layering with this circle. We're going to start with the ladybug paper and add a little adhesive, and that's going to be the background of this circle. Then we're going to add our cute little white bunny that we made and just put him on top of the layer with the ladybugs. Our next layer is going to be the green grass, and I kind of like to use the grass and move it around so that I can see that little bunny tail peeping through the grass. Once you have that in place, go ahead add some adhesive, and then we're going to flip over to the back side and then just trim around the circle. It's going to give us the perfect pattern and shape for all those different layers. And once we have that trimmed out, everything is going to look just perfect. The next layer is going to be with the ladybug paper, and we're going to add 2 layers of flowers and our field fence punch. So let's start by getting some of those circles that we just punched out. And this is my little technique where we're going to take a Post-it and just add it to the bottom of the circle so that we can move that right inside our wildflowers punch. Once that circle is inside the punch, I'm going to move it so that I can see that those 3 flowers are going to get punched out of the circle. Once I have that in place, I'm going to punch it, and you'll notice that as soon as I have that punch, it is in the exact shape we need, the circle. Now, once I have the blue flowers in place, I'm also going to take the lighter blue flowers that we punched earlier and add those into another layer. I'm going to adhere that together, and then it's time to add the punched out field fence. Now, you may want to move the fence around a little bit until you get it into a location that you like, and then we're going to flip it over and trim around the circle one more time. Okay, so now we have our little field fence in place, and one little extra detail that I added to this circle was to add a little ladybug. But since the ladybug had a lot of white surrounding it, I decided to just fussy cut around that ladybug. And now when I add that ladybug to the fence, it just looks perfectly in position right there on the field fence. Our next circle is our bee circle, and this is where we're going to add in those cute little bunny ears that will be peeping over the flowers and the grass. So once again, we're going to use the Post-it technique and grab one of the circles that we cut out from our peekaboo border. And this is the kind of the lighter blue paper with that texture on it. We're going to take that paper, put it once again in the punch upside down, and move it into place until I can punch those blue flowers out of the circle. And as you can see, once again, that circle is ready to go. I can just adhere that down to the layer with the bees on it. And then it's time to add in my cute little bunny ears along with one more layer of green grass. Now I'm going to fuss around getting the green grass just in the right place along with those bunny ears. But once I've got that in place, I'm just going to add adhesive and once again cut around the circle to make everything come out just perfectly. Now our last little embellishment is using the floral paper and that blue stripe paper that we've already cut. And once again, I'm going to build a flower out of the heart punches, and this time it's out of the yellow honeycomb paper. So I'm going to use the same technique using a tape chip, building the petals around the center, and then adding in the center of the flower, which is what I punched out. That's the basket weave as the center. So the easiest way to make sure that all these cute little embellishments get into the right place is to put my 2 right-hand sheets together on top of each other with the peekaboo layer on top. Once I have that layer in place and they're lined up, I'm going to add some adhesive inside the circles and then just one by one drop in all of these cute little embellishments that we made so that they fit just inside the circle. And voila, there they are, all lined up perfectly, both on the base layer, and it will be able to be seen through the top layer just in the right place. Well, congratulations. You now have 2 wonderful base page layouts ready for your Easter photos or springtime photos. I'd like to wrap up today by sharing how I've completed my pages and added some finishing touches. You'll notice these are some of my Easter pictures from long ago. What I've done is just added a few little finishing touches from the sticker strip. I've also created some banner strips with leftover pieces of paper, put some of those stickers up on foam squares, and brought that yellow color through the layout. On the second 2 pages, I've also added a cut title because I thought that that top part of the page was the perfect place to add a title. I've also included journaling and some other layers of stickers and banners and embellishments and another little kite. So I hope you've had some fun learning some new techniques with these 2 2-page spreads and learning how to do a peekaboo page with your layout. Once again, thank you for joining me here at Craft Some Joy. If you've enjoyed this video, I'd love to hear your comments. And if you haven't watched Kylie's video at Paper Sweet Pea or Noreen's video at Organized and Creative Mom, I will leave all of their links right here below this video. So until next time, we will see you again for yet another collab, and make sure you take time to craft some joy. Bye for now.